It was just after midnight when the sky above New Nevada lit up like a second sun. A transport ship, big, slow, and clearly in trouble, cut across the stars like a burning arrow. The fire trailing behind it turned the clouds orange. Moments later, a loud explosion shook the ground. People in the small town near the foothills stepped outside, eyes wide, watching the smoke rise from the distant crash. No one moved to help. They had all heard rumors. That ship wasn't from Earth. That much was clear. And in these parts, you didn't go running toward trouble unless you had a death wish. But Cole Riker wasn't like most people. He had the build of someone who'd seen war, and the eyes of someone who'd lost too much in it. A former soldier, Cole lived a quiet life now. Small cabin, no family, just the silence of the hills and the weight of memories he never spoke about. He was on his way home from town when he saw the fire in the sky. Something pulled at him, deep in his gut. He turned off the main road, followed the smoke. By the time he reached the crash site, the wind was sharp, carrying the scent of burning metal, fuel, and blood. The ship was a wreck, torn in half, pieces scattered across the rocky field. Emergency lights blinked weakly in the dark, casting strange colors over the ground. He stepped through the wreckage carefully, past torn wires, sparks, and what looked like pieces of armor. Then he saw her. She was lying half-buried under a broken panel. At first glance, she looked like a wounded pilot. But when he got closer, his breath caught. She wasn't human. Her skin was silver with a soft glow under it. Faint blue markings moved slowly along her arms like flowing water. Her eyes, barely open, flickered with light, like stars trying not to go out. Others had arrived too. 2 civilians, one off-world medic and a local security guy. They looked at her, then at Cole, and backed away. "She's one of them," someone whispered. "Whatever she is, it's not our problem." The medic shook his head. "Not worth the trouble. Let the wreck finish her." Cole didn't say a word. He just dropped to one knee, tore off his jacket, and wrapped it around her chest where she was bleeding. She flinched, barely conscious. "You're gonna be all right," he said softly, more to himself than to her. Then he picked her up, carried her out of the fire and the wreck, ignoring the stares and muttered warnings. He didn't care what she was. She was still breathing, and that was enough for him. He took her to his cabin up in the hills. It wasn't much, just one room, a fire pit, and a small bed. But it was safe. She didn't wake up for 3 days. He checked her wounds, cleaned her burns, fed her warm broth even when she was unconscious. And when she stirred at last, he was there, sitting beside the fire, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You stayed," she said, her voice weak but steady. Cole looked over, surprised to hear her speak. "Yeah," he replied, shrugging. "Seemed like the right thing to do." She tried to sit up, winced, and fell back against the pillow. "Most would have left." "I'm not most," he said simply. She studied his face for a long time. "My name is Arius." He nodded. "Cole." There was a quiet pause between them. She looked around the room, then down at the marks glowing faintly on her arms. "They left me to die," she whispered, "because I found out the truth." Cole raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He'd learned not to push too fast. "They crashed the ship on purpose," she continued. "It wasn't an accident. I was carrying information. Dangerous information." He leaned forward, now listening closely. "There's a network. A group made of both humans and aliens," she said slowly. "They move people, sell them, like property. I found out. I tried to expose them. They silenced the others on the ship. And they tried to get rid of me too." Cole's jaw tightened. He had seen evil during his time in war. But something about this was worse. Colder. "Why tell me?" he asked. Because, she said, her voice shaking, you didn't run. He looked at her, and for the first time in years felt something move in his chest. Not just anger or purpose, but something softer, something close to hope. The town's bar was the kind of place where secrets lived and died. Murphy's bar was dark and smoky, filled with rough men and women who didn't ask questions. When Cole pushed open the heavy door, the room quieted, for a moment. All eyes turned toward the tall man with the alien woman by his side. Arias's silver skin and glowing marks made her stand out like a flame in the night. But she walked quietly, her gaze steady. They were both looking for one man, Roden Burke. The name had come from the fragments of data Arias had managed to save from the crash. Roden was known in this town, a dangerous man tied to the shady network Arias had spoken about. If they were going to find proof, he was their first target. The bar smelled of old whiskey and spilled beer, the air thick with tension. Cole spotted Roden near the back, nursing a drink and surrounded by men who looked like they'd rather start trouble than finish one. Arias whispered, "Are you sure about this?" Cole's face was set hard. "No, but we don't have time for doubts." They moved forward, the crowd parting just enough to let them through. When Roden saw Arias, his eyes narrowed. "You brought the alien here? Thought you'd let her die." His voice was low but sharp, dripping with hatred. Cole didn't answer. Instead, Roden lunged, swinging a heavy fist straight at Cole's jaw. The fight exploded fast. Cole ducked, blocked, and countered with skill born from years on battlefields. Glass shattered as Roden smashed a bottle against the wall, then threw it at Cole, missing by inches. Arias wasn't helpless. She kicked a bar stool at a man trying to sneak up behind Cole. The whole bar erupted into chaos. Chairs flew, punches landed, and shouts filled the air. It was raw, brutal, and quick. Cole grabbed Roden, slammed him against the bar, and wrestled the datapad from his coat pocket. With a final shove, Roden collapsed, dazed and bleeding. Breathing hard, Arias opened the datapad and scanned its contents. "Got it," she said, her voice shaky but determined. "Names, dates, transactions, everything we need." Cole nodded grimly. They left the bar quickly before more trouble could find them. This was just the beginning. For the next few days, they hid in the hills, safe from the prying eyes of the smugglers. Arias's wounds healed, and she grew stronger each day. Cole saw a different side of her, quiet but fierce, haunted but hopeful. Their connection deepened with every shared story, every moment of silence, and every glance. One evening, Arias looked at him and said softly, "You don't have to stay. They will come for me." Cole's answer was simple but full of meaning. "I choose to stay." That night, under the stars, they shared a kiss. Slow, tender, and full of promise. Two souls who had been through too much, finding comfort in each other's arms. It felt like a new beginning. But morning brought a harsh surprise. Arias was gone. No note, no explanation. Only the datapad left on the table with a single message blinking on the screen. The words cut deep. "I'm sorry. They have my sister. I had to trade something valuable. I chose you." Cole's heart sank. She had left him behind to protect someone she loved. The betrayal stung, but beneath the pain was a fierce understanding. Arias's choices weren't just about survival. They were about sacrifice. She had put the safety of her sister above their growing bond. Cole realized then that love wasn't just about holding on. It was sometimes about letting go. He stared at the empty space where she had slept, feeling the weight of her absence. Yet he also felt a spark, a new mission to find her again, to stand with her no matter the cost. Because some promises weren't broken by distance or betrayal. They were tested and survived. Days turned into restless nights as Cole sat alone in the cabin, the quiet broken only by the crackling fire and the cold wind outside. Arius's absence was like a shadow that stretched across the room, filling every corner with unanswered questions and heavy silence. But Cole wasn't the type to give up. Her message on the datapad was clear. Their fight was far from over. She had gone to save her sister, and that meant plunging deeper into danger, into the heart of the dark network that had tried to kill her. Cole felt the old soldier's fire ignite within him, a call to protect, to fight, and to keep a promise, made in the darkest moments of his life. He packed what he could carry, his worn jacket, a few supplies, and the datapad filled with names and evidence. Every step he took was measured, careful, but filled with determination. The world outside was bigger and colder than his cabin, but Cole was no stranger to hard places. He followed the faint traces Arius had left, clues scattered like breadcrumbs, in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The locals whispered about strange disappearances and shadowy figures who worked for powerful men who didn't care about life or justice. Cole knew that to save Arius's sister, he had to face them all. His journey led him to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of a sprawling city, a place where light barely reached and fear ruled. Inside, voices whispered threats and chains clinked in the dark. Cole's heart pounded as he slipped through the cracked door, every muscle tense, every sense alert. He spotted a small cell where a young woman sat, bruised but alive. Her eyes, tired but fierce, met his without fear. The moment was brief, danger was close, but Cole moved fast. He fought off the guards with a raw strength born from years of battle. The rescue was brutal and fast, filled with shouts and the heavy sound of boots pounding the concrete floor. Arius's sister was safe, but the fight wasn't over. As they escaped, Cole's mind raced, knowing Arius was still out there, somewhere in greater danger. Days later, back at the cabin, Arius finally returned. She looked exhausted, but alive, carrying stories of betrayal deeper than Cole had imagined. She revealed that the network had allies even among humans, trusted faces who turned out to be traitors. It was a harsh truth that broke her spirit but also strengthened her resolve. Cole listened, holding her hand, understanding that love wasn't about perfect moments but standing strong through the worst ones. The two shared a quiet night by the fire, the weight of their past hanging heavy, but their hope brighter than ever. From that day forward, Cole and Arius made a pact, not just to survive, but to fight for justice, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. They learned that love was a battle in itself, full of sacrifice, trust, and the courage to face the darkest truths. And in that fight, they found something rare and precious, a reason to keep going, no matter what the universe threw their way. The lesson they carried was clear. Real love doesn't come easy. It demands bravery, forgiveness, and the strength to believe in each other, even when the world seems against you. And that, in the end, was worth fighting for.